Buying your first home doesn't have to feel overwhelming. When you understand the right steps, the whole process becomes much clearer and far less stressful. Let me walk you through 10 steps that actually make the buying process easier. I work with a lot of first time home buyers, and the biggest challenge to them isn't necessarily the market, it's knowing where to begin. This guide will give you a clear roadmap so you can stop guessing, move with confidence, and avoid the mistakes most buyers don't even realize they're making. Now, let's jump into it. Step number one, it's talking to a mortgage broker or the bank. This is the most important part of the entire process because regardless where you're at, if you have your down payment saved or if you don't, this is where you set up a financial plan on how you'll be able to buy your first home. So, for example, if you don't have your down payment saved up yet, talking to a mortgage broker will allow you to look at what different incentives there are for first-time home buyers, along with what the minimum down payment would be for said property that you want to buy. Once you're in a position that you're ready for a pre-approval, you and your broker will get a pre-approval ready, which means that you will have a rate locked in for 90 to 100 days of you being able to buy up to a specific budget. The beauty of having your rate locked for 90 to 120 days is that if rates change, for example, go up, your rate is locked in. And if they go down, then you can talk to your broker to see if you can get them down to today's rates. So this gives you stability and a clear picture of what your buying power is. Step number two, this goes hand in hand with talking to a mortgage broker, and this is knowing your true budget. This is when you factor in things such as strata fees, insurance, property taxes, monthly utilities, along with your budget for your life. So this is something that my wife and I recently just did. We're in the middle of the mortgage approval process, and we had a number in mind of what we're comfortable paying each month because we also like to live life. For us, going out for dinners is important. For us, having time and money to do date nights is important, and having some extra money for travel. So these are all things that we discussed amongst each other to make sure that the budget for our mortgage didn't affect what our budget is for our day-to-day life. So this is something that's incredibly important, especially for first-time home buyers that are new to paying a mortgage. It's have an idea of how much money you can spend each month and that the mortgage falls within that. Okay? Now, moving on to step three, understanding the market. This is incredibly important because you want to have a rough idea of what's happening in the specific areas that you're buying. So for example, if we're talking about today and you're a buyer looking to buy a condo in Willoughby, understanding this market would be that you understand that there is a ton of inventory in the market. Sales are much lower than they have been in the past 3 to 5 years. And there's a great opportunity for buyers in that marketplace. Another thing about understanding market is knowing recent sales. This is something that your realtor should be able to help you out with. Understanding days on market so you know how quick you should be acting when you see properties hit the market that you like. Now, step four, building your wish list. This is when you go through and you see what's most important for you to have in whatever place you're buying. For some people, it may be having a corner unit or an end unit as a townhouse. Some may be a specific direction that the home or condo faces. I had a client, she worked shift work, she was a nurse, she knew that she would likely have to come home and sleep after graveyards. So her thing was, I don't want to have too much natural light in my home, and I also want to be away from the main roads. So these are little things that you want to make sure that you have an understanding of, and you match these things up to what your lifestyle is. Step number five. This is the fun part. This is when you're able to start viewing homes and you hire a realtor. I highly suggest that when you're in the process of hiring a realtor, you hire somebody that knows the area and the in and outs of the market. I would also suggest that you potentially interview a couple of realtors. Once you've hired a realtor, they'll most likely set you up in a search of products that fall within your budget, and then you start going out on tour and looking at places. This is very important because when you're new to the market, you want to have a feel for the different areas that you're looking in. Maybe if you're looking in Willoughby, there's certain pockets of Willoughby that you potentially like more than others. So having a general idea of what areas you like in a specific sub area or area, you're not going to be able to figure that out until you start looking at homes. Step number six. Now, this is probably the most exciting part of the process because you've done the work, you've looked at homes, and you have finally fell in love with the home that you're ready to call yours. It's checked all the boxes. It's now time to write an offer. Now, there's 4 key elements to any offer. There's the price, which is the offer price. the deposit, which is to be paid upon subject removal. There's the dates, completion date, and possession date, which we'll talk about later in the video. And then for the subjects, which is the next topic we'll be talking about. Once you prepare an offer, your realtor will send it out to the other agent, and this is where the negotiations begin. The ultimate goal is to have a price that you're happy with and dates that you're satisfied with, and making sure that all the subjects are satisfied. Step 7, let's talk about subjects. Every offer, especially in slower markets, will have subjects in them. What those are typically subject to finance, subject to home inspection. If you're in a strata, subject to reviewing strata documents, and then there's reviewing title, property disclosure statement, and most of the time subject to insurance. The importance of a home inspection. This, I think, has to be part of any offer, regardless of the marketplace, because when you walk through a home, you can see nicks on the wall, you can see everyday wear and tear, but you can't see what's behind walls. So this is where hiring an inspector, it's worth the money. They come in, they'll give you a full inspection report of what their findings are of the home. Sometimes this can lead to the buyers asking the sellers to fix whatever issues they may be, or in some scenarios, renegotiating the offer to a better price where you feel comfortable buying that home, even though you know of whatever issues there may be. Reviewing strata documents is also equally important because there's a lot that can be uncovered when you review the strata document, especially when you review minutes. Here you'll be able to find if there's any upcoming work that's happening to the complex, if there's any levies that are proposed or could be coming up. This allows you to have any red flags removed before you remove subjects and buy the home. Step 8, you have now removed subjects on the home that you're buying. It is now time to hire a lawyer or a notary. This is a very important part of the process because this is the legal side of the process. So this is where they're going to prepare all your closing documents. They receive and transfer funds for the purchase. They also pay out the seller's mortgage along with any fees and then register the home in your name. So this typically comes about 3 to 4 days before completion day, which leads us to step number 9, completion day. This is the day that we've been waiting for. This is when funds finally transfer, your mortgage is set into place, and then the title transfers officially to you. Now, more often than not, completion day and possession day, which is step 10, are lagged by a period of time, largely because more often than not, the sellers are themselves purchasing something. So they need for you to complete on their home so that they can receive funds, pay off the mortgage on that home, and then apply those funds to the home that they're purchasing. So typically there's a lag period here. Now, step 10, the final step of the whole entire process, possession day. This is when you get keys. This is when you finally get to call the home yours. But there's one last step that I always suggest people to do on possession day. Aside from unloading the U-Haul truck, before you do anything, do a mini walkthrough. And at this part, you want to go through and turn on all appliances. You want to make sure that everything is in working order on possession day so that if there's any issues that come up, you can talk to the sellers immediately. This happened to me a couple months ago. My clients moved in, everything was great, inspection was awesome. The day we move in, the fridge no longer worked. It worked the day before for the sellers, but for some reason, by the day my clients moved in, the fridge didn't work. So what we did, we called the sellers, we told them the issue. They came by and they gave them a check so that they could go buy a new fridge. So now that we've gone through a quick 10-step process of buying a home, if you're thinking about starting your search and want a plan built around your goals, reach out anytime. I'm here to guide you through every step and make the process feel very straightforward from start to finish.